this next group it's one of the first groups that I've kind of found when exploring youth-led efforts, and it's really what you'll find is that their work is very specific, but it's also so easy and attainable to something that you can do as well. So as we pull them up and make them panelists, again, keep the questions going. The conversations have been so good. All 24 hours, which is so cool. Okay. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about this next group before we get started, before they introduce themselves, share what they're all about. So I'm so excited to introduce ThinkOcean Italy. This is another awesome, really Youth-A-Thon session. And if you aren't tuning into us live and you're watching this, again, please show them some love on social media, and we'll be able to share those afterwards. But in this next session, ThinkOcean Italy members will describe the environmental issues concerning the Italian coasts and seas. And I was so fortunate enough to visit Italy for my second time last summer, and I was taken back. The first time I visited, I was just overwhelmed with the beauty, and this second time it was no different. But as they'll explain, 3/3 of Italy is actually surrounded by turquoise transparent water, and the Italian Riviera has always been a summer dream for many people, but lately their natural heritage is threatened by pollution and human action. So they will go through problems affecting their seas and things that they're doing, and then also include them in the global context. So it's a very local way of looking at something or that actually can translate globally. But a little bit about ThinkOcean Italy before we start. So ThinkOcean Italy is part of an international network which is called ThinkOcean. ThinkOcean Italy believes in the importance of local and individual actions to make an actual change on a global level. For this reason, they act locally, but love discussing ideas and solutions within the global network. So wherever you are tuning into us from, share that energy with them, because these are definitely things that you can take away and apply them to where you're at. So without further ado, here they are.
Thank you so much, Bailey, for introducing us, and thank you so much for staying up all night for this amazing event. We really appreciate being here. We really appreciate this global event. And I also wanted to thank all of the people who are following us live now from YouTube or from the Zoom meeting. So yeah, as you said, without further ado, we'll get started because we have just 1 hour. So let's use it wisely. Hi, everyone. First of all, I am Julia, and Bailey already said a few words about ThinkOcean Italy and about this global network we are in, which is ThinkOcean. I am a student at University of Trento in Northern Italy. So we're all from this Italian network, and we are here to talk about a very important topic about the ocean, which is microplastics. But before, I really want you to quickly get to know our hosts. So today I will introduce you to Asia, Maria, and Anita. So if you guys want to take it over for a little while and say who you are, so we know.
Hi everyone, I'm Asia. I'm 24. I'm kind of the oldest one here. I graduated last year in international studies in Trento, my hometown, Northern Italy, and now I'm currently attending the master degree in diplomatic studies. And I joined ThinkOcean because I really think and I really believe in individual action and locally, from a local point of view. That's very not only important, but it is interesting to get to know better, your surroundings and what is close to you, especially if it affects global environment, and it is an issue that can be worldwide important and followed. Thank you, Julia.
Thank you, Asia. I am Maria. I'm 22 years old, and I am the regional coordinator for ThinkOcean Italy in the North regions. I am a master's student in sustainable development at the University of Milan, and I earned my bachelor's degree with Asia in international studies. In the future, I would like to work in the field of corporate social responsibility and sustainability. So I'm really involved in this environmental discussion. And I will introduce you to Anita, our next presenter.
Hi everyone, my name is Anita and I live in Brescia in the north of Italy, and I'm a social media manager for ThinkOcean Italy with Asia, and it's a pleasure to be here to talk about our beautiful blue planet. And I just want to invite you to take a look at our YouTube channel, where soon a documentary on our beautiful glaciers will be published, and on our Instagram page, which will be soon be renewed. And it's me.
Thank you so much, Anita. Anita was also responsible for our PowerPoint presentation, which we're gonna have right now. She will share it, and I will start with the topic. Just one last word about me. Again, I'm Julia. I study international relations at University of Trento, and my dream is to work for a more sustainable environment on a governmental level. I will take over for the first part of the day, and I will introduce you to our topic, which is microplastics pollution in the ocean. We're going to have 3 different sessions today. So I am going to introduce you to the topic. So by giving you a general insight and a general presentation of what microplastics represent in our environment, how they can be classified, where they come from, how they get to our seas, and what are their consequences. And Asia will then take over right after me, and she will talk about the issue in the Mediterranean Sea and the effects of microplastics on the local level. And eventually, Maria will discuss about solutions and what the European Union has been doing to regulate the issue. Before getting started, we want you to be an active part of the presentation, so you can ask questions anytime. We will be very happy to answer to your questions. And also at the end of the session, we're gonna have a quiz. So you can click on the link that you'll find at the end of each session. We're going to put it in the chat on Zoom. We're going to put it in the chat on YouTube, so you can take the quiz, and we'll make sure that you don't fall asleep throughout the presentation. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. We have been hearing a lot about microplastics pollution lately, especially related to oceans and especially around Oceans Day, right? Plastics are a material which is basically used for everything nowadays. And let's put it out there, plastic is extremely useful. It's true, guys. Plastic is inevitably a very useful material due to its lightweight, its versatility, and the production low cost. I mean, what else? What else do we need, right? Well, maybe we have a little bit exaggerated in its production, because in 2016 alone, the annual production of plastic products was around 322 million tons of plastic, accounting for about 8% of the global oil production. And a general estimation of up to 10% of these plastic fragments would end up in the marine environment, so not that fun. So we know that plastic is widely used around the globe, but what does it have to do with microplastics? So what is the connection between plastic and microplastics? Well, I will use a definition here, which will help us understand that. We define microplastics as the synthetic polymers with an upper size level of 5 millimeters, and basically there's no specific lower limit. So they can be extremely small, almost invisible to the human eye. But let's be more clear. It is possible to categorize microplastics in two different categories based on their origins. We have primary microplastics and secondary microplastics. So primary microplastics are microplastics which are originally manufactured to have a size of less than 5 millimeters. So they are made that small and they are meant to be that small. So this kind of microplastics is mainly found in textiles, in medicines, in personal care products as facial and body beauty care products and scrubs. Instead, secondary microplastics derive from fragmentation of large plastic debris due to processes such as, for instance, photodegradation, so because of the sun, or physical, chemical, and biological interactions. So this basically means that they derive from big plastic chunks that break down into smaller parts. And the origin can be literally whatever, like fishing nets or industrial resin pellets or household items and other discarded plastic debris. So there is also another category I decided to mention here. And this is just a little curiosity I wanted to add about biodegradable plastic. So according to some scholars, biodegradable plastic is actually eco-friendly only if properly recycled in a post-industrial plants. So if this plastic is discarded at sea, this kind of plastic is still not sustainable because the marine environment does not provide the right conditions for a proper degradation. Okay, so so far we saw a first classification of microplastics, which also gave us some hints about on the origin of these materials. But where did they come from? So as we were seeing before, most microplastics come from coastal tourism, recreational and commercial fishing, marine vessels, and the marine industries. So discarded or lost fishing gear is particularly problematic. And if you guys believe that this cannot be that bad, because I mean, not every single fisherman loses tons of plastic in the ocean, right? Well, actually some studies found that throughout the 1960s, the global commercial fishing industry dumped over 23,000 tons of plastic packaging materials in our oceans. And furthermore, as I mentioned before, another notable source of plastic debris comes from the manufactured plastic products that use granules and small resin pellets. So these raw materials can easily enter the aquatic ecosystem. But now the question you're probably wondering is how? How would these microplastics get into the ocean? Well, it is definitely easier than what we think. This picture that you're seeing right now is one of my favorite pictures because it basically sums up all the ways through which plastic can get to the ocean, which is basically every kind of way. So microplastics enter the marine environment via different pathways, so both terrestrial and marine-based activities. So the microplastic beads present in cosmetics such as scrubs, toothpaste, air blasting products, and clothing can easily enter the aquatic environment through industrial or domestic drainage system. So wastewater treatments still release millions of microplastic particles. And this is also what some researchers found while they were studying microplastic pollution in River Clyde in Glasgow. I hope none of you guys is from there because they found that 65 million particles on a daily basis was basically dumped into the river. Pretty impressive, huh? And of course, other ways through which microplastics get into the marine environment is via wind. And via currents, which of course are present in the ocean, and they are basically the way through which these microplastics get around in our oceans, and they're basically now everywhere, even in the very depths of the ocean. The very last point I want to address today for my part of my session is the so what point. So why do we care? What are the consequences of this plastic pollution? We have 4 main effects that we can talk about like the consequences of microplastics. First, there is a very interesting effect, which is the population level effect. this means that plastics may be able to modify the community-wide assemblages. Yeah, I know. What does that mean? It's very hard to understand, right? Well, simply put, it means that microplastics can provide a sort of new hard substrate habitat, and species can hold on to this plastic substrate, and they can get transported so far away from their original habitat. So it's not very good for them not to be home, like getting transported very far away from their natural habitat, right? Just very far from home. We then have a second effect, which is accumulation. So this effect means that marine organisms could ingest a huge quantity of microplastics to the point where this plastic could block their digestive system and suppress feeding due to satiation. So this is not fun. And another side of accumulation concerns vegetal organisms like algal species. And so basically microplastics could inhibit photosynthesis. And this is of course terrible for our oceans. Another consequence of microplastics is basically the presence of microplastics is translocation, where basically microplastics can pass through cell membranes, and they could become incorporated into body tissues of the animals. And as the microplastics continues to fragment, they can potentially accumulate within the circulatory fluid. So it's like having microplastics in your blood, which is, again, not a great thing for animals. And well, again, you guys could ask me at this point, why should I care? I mean, it's not about me, right? But this is false, because it is also about all of us. It is about you. First of all, because as we said, these microplastics in the ocean can inhibit photosynthesis, but also because it affects you directly, because basically microplastics through fish get into our food chain, and they cause the fourth effect, which is called food web consequences. And some scientists found that, get ready, 36.5% of 10 species of fish that they found in the English Channel contained pieces of microplastics. And this could be just a very bad effect of the English Channel. Well, but it's not, because some other scholars found the exact same effect. More than 1/3 of the fish found also in the North Pacific Ocean contained at least 6 pieces of microplastics. So I bet after what I said, you're not very keen to enjoy your fish and chips meal now. But anyways, at this point, I'll cut it short, and we can have a little quiz time right now. So just to make sure that you guys were listening, I will put you can actually find the link to this right here on the slide, but I will also copy it in the chat if I can do that. Yes, here we go. And you can also take this little quiz and see how you do on that. In the meanwhile, I really want to read the questions you asked, because I saw there are some questions. So I will definitely read those while you take the test and the quiz. All right, I cannot really see the questions actually, so I don't know how to.
Julia, I can ask them for you.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. So a couple of the questions are, let me pull them up. Oh, how did all of you get into this work? How did you come into either ThinkOcean Italy or just the plastics movement in general?
So I will answer first, and then I can let the other girls answer. So Italy, as you said, Bailey, is basically always in contact with sea issues. And I remember being younger and seeing way less plastic that I see today on our beaches, on our coasts. So today, basically, Italian people would go to the seaside and you would find so much plastic around. And you start wondering, well, is this normal? Is this part of our environment now? Is this as bad as it seems? Or is this a new normal? What is happening now? Because you just see it. You go on vacation or you go on walks because, of course, again, 3/4 of Italy are surrounded by the sea. And so most of us are basically always in touch with the ocean or with rivers or with water. So we started to wondering what is happening right now, and we started to do some research, and we found that basically we are overwhelmed with plastic, and we thought, okay, we have to do something about this, and we have to do something about the environment as well, because we just really believe that individual actions are fundamental to change. So mostly people come to me and tell me, well, what can I do? How am I going to affect this? How can I change this? I'm just one person. I'm not going to be able to do anything. This has to come from the government. And what we try to say, and what we try to do with ThinkOcean Italy, is saying, well, it doesn't always have to come from the government, because sometimes the government is just too busy listening to other interest groups, and it's just too busy with other issues. And sometimes it really has to come from the people, because together we really can do a lot of things. So
yeah,
if
we have, sorry.
Yeah,
I was just about to say that we're aimed at becoming the greatest interest group in Italy, like the environmental one. We believe in the action of civil society. We believe in networking of young people, young enthusiastic people. So that we are here really to voice our needs, the needs of nature, and the aim is actually the well-being of everyone in society and potentially worldwide. That's why we believe in networking. Asia, what would you say about that?
Well, if I just can add something, I think that the power of youth and youngsters is incredible, because like last generation basically fought for what we have right now, you know? So now we have the power, as Maria said, of civil society, that I think it's an incredible resource that we need to use in the right way from an environment, but also human right point of view. So this is what we can do. Just look around and say, okay, let's do something, guys. I mean, one of our colleagues, actually, Lucia, she lives so close to the seaside, and she sometimes tells us some, I don't know, just pictures that she has in mind with plastic all around. It's not a matter of how beautiful it is to see. It's a matter of how much we care about it, and like it also impacts the ocean in its whole part, because of course every seas are connected. So that's incredible, and we can do something, and we want to start by easy things, but we want to start definitely. That's it.
Asia, do you want to proceed with the
Yes, I will.
At the very end, we'll ask all the questions, so we are done with that, and then we can have like maybe a 15-minute discussion with all of you guys, because I know that your questions are all great, and I love discussing with you about all of this, so we can have more time at the end and now finish this, so we can have a lot of things.
So I will take over. Oh, sorry, Anita.
Asia, sorry. The public asked me to share the link in a YouTube chat. Is it possible?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right. So
I will just copy paste it.
Yeah, I will take over, because we are talking about Italy. We're talking about seas, and of course the Mediterranean Sea is our sea, let's say, just because it is like we are surrounded by it. So it is really impressive what I found in more detail when I started researching for not only for this presentation, but also, you know, for our interest as a ThinkOcean. Did you know that the Mediterranean Sea is today one of the seas with the highest level of plastic pollution in the entire world? Well, plastic accounts today for 95% of the waste in the open sea, in the seabed, and on beaches across the Mediterranean. That's really impressive. This waste mainly derives from the countries surrounding the sea, mainly Turkey and Spain, but there we are, Italy as well, and also Egypt and France are the main polluter, let's say. Europe, it is the second largest plastic producer in the entire world, according to WWF report of 2018 and 19, only after China. Large plastic pieces are a threat to marine animals, as Julia precisely mentioned. However, it is microplastics that is the main threat to marine life. And as we got to know, they are smaller and more insidious fragments that reach record levels in the Mediterranean. How much plastic and microplastics are we talking about? The concentration of microplastic in the Mediterranean is almost 4 times higher than the plastic island found in the North Pacific Ocean. Yes, well, it is only a sea, it is not an ocean, but that's really, really not only impressive, that makes you think a lot, you know. The fragments are a risk for increasing number of animal species as well as for human health. But what are the causes of plastic pollution? Yeah, it's us again. Why? Because plastic pollution, it is due to the delays and the gaps in plastic waste management in most Mediterranean countries. So yes, it is us, and it is our, let's say, neglecting this topic that is affecting the sea. I will give you some example. Out of 27 million tons of plastic waste produced each year in Europe, only one third it is recycled in 2020, guys. I don't, no comment. 40% of European plastics, moreover, are used for packaging, only for packaging. So guys, when you go to the supermarket, well, that's 40% of the waste plastic, of the plastic that we use, sorry. Moreover, unfortunately, the use of landfills still remain the first or second option for many European countries. Lastly, there is a problem from the demand side, meaning that recycled plastics account only for 6% of plastic demand in Europe. Like the whole rest is new plastic. But what role do individuals play? So the Mediterranean basin is home to 150 million people, more or less, who produce between 208 and 760 kilograms solid urban waste per capita per year, meaning between a half kilo and 2 kilos per day. So guys, do you see this puppy? It's like more or less how much plastic we produce each day. During summer holidays, moreover, tourists visiting the Mediterranean can generate, you know, an increase of 40% in marine litter. We all know that Italy is beautiful, but guys, we need to be more sustainable. Even when going on holidays, that's so important. Lastly, debris is also carried by the main European rivers into the sea, of course, and they get debris from cities along those rivers. So the question that you might think is, why the Mediterranean? Why is it so affected by such an issue? Well, it is mainly due to its shape and location. Why? It is a semi-enclosed sea surrounded by 3 continents with intense human activity, because we do a lot every day, every night as well. So it is basically a trap for plastics. They accumulate and remain for a long time, and then they break into smaller and smaller pieces. Every year, between 150 and 500,000 tons of macroplastic, and 70 to 130,000 tons of microplastic enter the European seas, and the vast majority of them goes into the Mediterranean. So just look down there. This is today's largest passenger cruise ship. It is called the Symphony of the Seas. And this ship is operated by Royal Caribbean International. Why do I mention it? Because, guys, it weighs 228,000 tons. So you can easily compare those measures and get a clearer idea about how much I'm talking about, how much plastic I'm talking about. Moreover, the Mediterranean is considered a sixth world largest accumulation zone for marine litter. So, guys, it is really a trap for plastic. It gets there and it is stuck there. At this point of the discussion, we can imagine that the presence of plastics, of course, and we all know that, into the seawater has a strong impact not only on animals' health, but also on human health, and also on economy. And that can, that can stimulate the institution that Julia and Maria were talking about. So that's a great point in favor of our argument. Let's see how, plastics affect tourism and fishing. So the vast majority of damage caused to marine wildlife is caused by human activity and by plastics, especially. What are the ways that animals can be affected? Well, through entrapment, ingestion, and contamination. Why? So we talk about entrapment when fishing lines, as Julia mentioned above, rings and other tools are abandoned or just discarded and create trap for sea animals. This phenomenon is called ghost fishing. Moreover, animals voluntarily or not voluntarily might ingest plastic. What are the consequences of that? So even crabs and mussels are affected by plastic accumulation. A study, estimated that an average European shellfish consumer can ingest up to 11,000 pieces of microplastic each year. Moreover, today, 90% of the world's seabirds have fragments of plastic in their stomach. I don't know, guys, but those figures just, I'm speechless, in front of them. Why do animals ingest plastic? This is a great question. Well, actually, in the case of seabird, for example, they mistake plastic bags and eat them as if they were algae due to their smell. So they're misled by plastic, basically. The same happens to other fishes, which mistake plastic for krills. We see here a nice krill. Well, they think it is food and instead it is plastic. Sea turtles base their food research on sight and get misled by plastic balloons that are really colored. But okay, we saw the animals. Why do they get closer to plastic? But let's see now human life, because it really matters and it can really be a convincing argument to me. A recent study by the University of Newcastle, Australia, after taking a closer look at the data and literature, all the studies on that, reveals that consumption of common food and beverages may result in a weekly ingestion of approximately 5 grams of plastic. Well, yes, that's I don't know, it sounds really, really impressive. The studies taken into account list some food and beverages that contain microplastics. Well, among them there is water, both tap and bottled water, beer and shellfish and salt. So as we could easily understand, these are fundamental goods in people's everyday life. Another important issue is that plastic debris contain organic contaminants, and those that are adhere to plastics in the sea, among them 78% are toxic, persistent, and accumulate in the tissue of breathing organisms. I will just finish my discussion because I know it's long and sometimes boring, but it is really crucial and fundamental to mention those points in order to get better the idea of the issue and how current it is. I will mention the phenomenon of plastic sphere. Well, this is the name given to new communities, as Julia mentioned before, different from those living in the water that are likely to be created by plastics. These communities are made up of new microorganisms, including those causing disease in human and animals, such as vibrios. I don't know the precise pronunciation about that, but vibrios, it's the spelling. What is curious is that the Mediterranean Sea plastics carry among the highest concentration of different organisms recorded until now. So basically, guys, we have a lot of material to study on, but also a lot of material to convince institution, with. So I will now give you the link of a few questions that you can do if you want to see some impressive numbers, and then I will let my colleague Maria speak about what institution can do and have done till now. So thank you for your attention. I hope it was not so boring.
Thank you, Asia, for providing us with such a precious insight into the adverse effects of crooked disposal of plastics on the Mediterranean marine ecosystem. I would actually begin on a different note, my presentation. Today, we are here to celebrate our seas rather than just complaining about their poor features. In fact, just as human action is responsible for such deterioration, human action and policy intervention can alleviate the problem and relieve the solution. Well, we need to remark that the Mediterranean is not only complex in ecology, hosting 4 to 18% of the world's marine biodiversity, which, if you think about it, is impressive given its size, but also sociopolitically. In fact, the Mediterranean Sea stretches from the Atlantic Ocean on the west to the Asian continent on the east, as you can see from the map, and separates Europe from Africa. Today, 21 countries border this heavily used sea, with coastlines ranging from close to 200 kilometers, more than 100 miles, to 14,000 kilometers, as in the case of Greece. Greece has the longest coastline in Europe. 8 among such countries belong to the European Union, which will be relevant for the last part of this presentation. So bear that in mind. Other than that, the Mediterranean region has historically been the scene of intense human activity, representing a great asset of marine resources, the conveyor belt for trade, as you can see from the lower map. This were trade routes from late medieval times, and often, unfortunately, the sink for cumulative effects and impacts of these activities. We're actually connected from the Po Valley, which is located in northern Italy. And that river has a huge delta, meaning greater discharge and potentially pollution in the Mediterranean. It's one of the the biggest arrows in the upper image. So this region is today defined as under siege. Why is it so? Due to historical, summed up to current impacts of multiple stressors. The issue of microplastic is just one of the stressors threatening the very existence of marine ecosystem as we know them. That's why research and temporal analysis are increasingly needed to inform effective current and future marine policies and management actions. Data-driven policies are absolutely crucial into that, plays a crucial role. Moreover, Anita, can you change it? Thank you. Due to its complex nature, the management and protection of the coastal and marine environment will require multilateral environmental agreements and regulations abided by at a supranational level, beyond the national level, as these are issues which concern more parties. Therefore, I will now turn to a more rigorous part, more boring part, if you will. I'll be talking about international treaties and international organizations protecting our seas and the environment at large. As a result of these actions, which I will introduce short, almost 86,000 square kilometers of the Mediterranean is today classified as marine protected areas, or Natura 2000 sites. Nevertheless, unfortunately, only 3% of the Mediterranean Sea results as protected as of today. So what's been done concretely up to this point? Well, much international effort has been specifically profused for the safeguard of the Mediterranean Sea by the coastal states, first of all. In fact, in 1976, the Convention for the Protection of the Marine Environment and the coastal region of the Mediterranean, it's very long, was adopted by the Conference of Coastal States of the Mediterranean region for the protection of the Mediterranean Sea. That was held in Barcelona, and that's why it came to be known as the Barcelona Treaty, Barcelona Convention. Many protocols have been added over time regarding matters such as the prevention and elimination of pollution by dumping from ships and aircrafts, or incineration at sea, the protection against pollution from land-based sources and activities resulting from the exploration and exploitation of the continental shelf and seabed of the Mediterranean, the prevention of pollution by transboundary movements of hazardous waste and their disposal, a protocol concerning specially protected areas and biological diversity in the Mediterranean. And lastly, the last one was concerning cooperation, international cooperation in preventing pollution from ships and all the topics mentioned. Well, a different initiative was undertaken by the European Union in 2000 under the label of EU Natura 2000. Well, stretching over 18% of European Union land area and over 6% of its marine territory, not a great share, but anyway, that's important. It is the largest coordinated network of protected areas in the world. It offers a haven to Europe's most valuable and threatened species and habitats. Those are listed under different EU directives, which are very much detailed text, in which it is reported that all Cetacea species, so whales, are protected under this directive, and so are subject to this conservation project. Actually, efforts to protect biodiversity, along with measures to mitigate global warming, are at the top of the global agenda, not only a regional one, and are guided by intergovernmental panels of experts, such as the IPCC, which you should have heard of regarding the the threshold of 1.5 degrees Celsius of global warming we can afford until our world is gone forever, basically. And the Intergovernmental Panel for Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, IPBES, which is less famous but important as anyway. A great leap forward on the international plan has been the conclusion of the Convention on Biological Diversity in 1992 at the Earth Summit in Rio. Those who studied international studies are very familiar with that. This convention was signed by over 150 governments worldwide. And the convention itself recognizes that biodiversity is more than about plants, animals, and their ecosystems. It is about us. It's about people and our need for food security, medicines, fresh air, fresh water, shelter, and a clean and healthy environment in which we live. The convention has also elaborated a comprehensive list of targets to be tackled, known as the Aichi biodiversity targets. The objective 11 of these targets provides for the achievement of protection of at least 10% of the Mediterranean Sea area, which it is far from being achieved, within the end of 2020, with effectively and equitably managed marine protected areas. The strategic goals A of these targets focuses in particular on addressing the underlying causes of biodiversity loss by mainstreaming biodiversity across governments and societies. It commits to making people aware of the values of biodiversity and the steps they can take to conserve and use resources sustainably. They also strive to integrate such values into national policies and foster national accounting and reporting system on actions taken. It advocates eliminating subsidies, incentives to activities which are harmful to biodiversity, to minimize adverse impacts, and instead promoting positive incentives for virtuous activities. Also involving stakeholders and crucially civil society, as I was mentioning before, in this transition to a more sustainable production and consumption patterns to keep anthropogenic impacts well within safe ecological limits is also capital. So these are very ambitious goals the Union is setting, the international community is setting to itself. Nevertheless, as previously mentioned, only 3% of Mediterranean Sea results as protected. So there is a great need to deepen the commitment in that sense. Well, in that sense, the European Union, now we are turning to a regional level, has been proactive in this regard. The EU is indeed a special kind of international organization which is championing environmental protection worldwide. Its environmental commitment is reflected in the preamble to its fundamental treaty, the TEU, which is indeed a political statement in a sense. It goes that while valuing the internal market, it is geared towards the protection of the environment, thought of as a means, not a constraint, to pursue economic growth. It's a vehicle, let's say. In fact, by design, any kind of union's policies and activities must integrate environmental protection requirements with a view to pursuing sustainable development, which is very dear to me as I study sustainable development. So I tackle these topics also during my classes. The EU and its member states work actually together in devising the Union environmental policy. For instance, developing the internal market, promoting free competition may require regulation of production within each member state to abide by environmental standards. The Union does so by setting directives which bind member states to results to be achieved. Why is this relevant to our discussion anyway? You might ask yourself. Well, there is a EU directive I would like to discuss with you, which constitutes the basis of the principle of rectifying pollution at source, better known, shortened as the source principle. What is even that? The source principle is a rather bold attempt at eradicating the source of environmental damage, namely plastic in the case we're concerned with, avoiding entirely the circulation of products that may end up deteriorating the environment and replacing them with less harmful processes and products. For example, with wood, with, I don't know, paper or whatever. Design students would help me in giving me alternatives to that. This directive is the number 62 of 1994, and it regards packaging and packaging waste. It is precisely aimed at minimizing the environmental impact of packaging, and more than that, preventing their generation. The Union sets specific targets for that. Annual personal consumption, for example, should not exceed 90 lightweight plastic carrier bags per person by the end of 2019, which is now expired and replaced with the new limit of 40. So ideally a person should not use more than 40 plastic bags in a year. I don't know how many plastic bags I use, but I will take account of that next time I use them. Importantly, since the end of 2018, lightweight plastic carrier bags are not provided free of charge on the point of sale anymore in member states, of course. Member states can implement that using national programs, incentives, responsibility schemes, and in consultation with all the stakeholders involved. So consumers, industries, and lobbies, environmental groups such as we are. We've never been consulted by any national entity, but in the future, we hope it will be our role as well. For example, here in Italy, we switched to grocery bags made of biodegradable materials, for which we pay some cents while doing shopping. And this is actually effective in limiting the use of limiting the production of packaging waste. Reporting mechanisms are also provided for, whereby the European Commission, which is, I don't know if you're familiar with European Union Commission with politics, but it is the technical organ, the executive and technical organ of the Union. It gathers national data and drafts new legislative proposals exclusively based on best practices registered in member states. Well, looking forward, okay, of course, also reusable packaging is encouraged, and incentives for the use of materials obtained from recycled packaging waste are to be given. Looking forward, there are plans, it seems there are plans to phase out the use of single plastic products altogether, like plastic totally gone, which might sound, and it is, utopistic, unrealistic, because given the deeply plastic system we're in, plastic-based system, resulting in economies of scale, plastic is cheap, and people and industries like that. That's a fact. Who doesn't like cheap shit? Okay. Curbing production of such materials which are deemed harmful to the environment may have controversial effects on the economy, as we know that, namely market distortions. But it seems a risk that the European Union is willing to take for greater good. Let's call it a hopeful beginning. No more than that, but we hope we're striving in that direction. Well, further coordinated action must be taken for those measures to effectively trickle down to a benefit to the Mediterranean environment. It's not automatic. Well, a cultural change, we believe it's essential. It's first and foremost required for that to happen. Crucially, consumers must be educated worldwide, made aware of the far-reaching effects of their daily consumption choices, as buying a plastic bag at the supermarket. What effect might it have on the environment at large? I'm just one person, but if everyone thinks the same, it may become a problem, as it has become. And we're trying to counter it with all our efforts.
Mari, I'm super sorry to jump in, but so we have just 2 minutes left.
Yeah, I have just 2 paragraphs. I swear. So they have to be educated and they have to be provided alternatives to lead a more healthy and environmentally sustainable lifestyle. A valuable opportunity to do so is being here, taking part in this beautiful marathon, sharing perspectives and spreading awareness across the globe, really celebrating our blue planet. All that while bearing in mind that no true environmental justice can be achieved as long as social justice is not realized. And that's a remark I think worth to be done. Thank you for your attention. Really sorry if I've been boring.
I actually wanted to jump in because we have like literally 1 minute, and
okay.
I love the questions you asked, guys. I tried to type and answer to you, but I wanted to link to one thing that Maria said at the very end. That's why I interrupted you. Sorry, Maria. But you mentioned something about, actually aware consumers and aware choices. And one of you guys asked me what we can do about big companies that still use plastic and huge quantities of plastic. And I just wanted to quickly say that it's always all about the customer. Like, there are some scholars and researchers that actually compare politics and economy, and it's all about individual choices. Politicians and industries and companies will do whatever you will ask them to do. So that's why it is extremely important to actually ask them and choose not to use those products. And another one of you guys asked me about plastic reduction or recycling. Plastic reduction would be the solution, definitely, because recycling, as Asia told us before, it's just a so small percentage of all the plastic produced. So thank you so much for joining the session. I'm so sorry we were so short on time. Now it's 4, so
there is a lot to say, we must say.
But again, thank you so much. We will have other sessions like this in ThinkOcean. So
definitely.
And we'll have other sessions like this on many more topics. So Bailey, thank you so much for having here. It was so exciting, and thank you guys. And whenever you want to ask other questions, we can just do
just contact us, DM us on our websites and everything. Anita will provide you with.
And go on our YouTube channel. Don't forget that. It is.
Yeah, we have a documentary.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Coming up. Thanks so much, ThinkOcean Italy. You all are so amazing. Your energy is infectious. This was one of the most informative, I think, on actual plastic pollution and kind of the science behind a lot of it. And, I found myself going, oh yeah, that's something, here in the US that I could do maybe, or that's a tip maybe I can tell somebody I know somewhere else. So thank you for really taking a local look at plastic, but then connecting it to our
international
goal. Yeah, you guys are awesome. Thanks so much for your work. Shout out to Ben May, founder of ThinkOcean, if he's watching out there. So cool. You guys keep up the great work. Keep fighting the good fight. Hopefully one day we'll be able to live in a world that is free from all of this. I don't know if we'll ever be free from plastic, but we need to break free from plastic, and when we need to cut off our relationship with it. So thank you all so much.
Definitely.
Bailey, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bailey.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.